The scene of vast yellow-brown sand dunes which tower up to 100 feet in height might make you think that you are in a vast desert such as the Sahara. Yet, something is not right. As we look around, there's surprisingly abundant water running in adjacent rivers which cut across some of the dunes. There are also numerous conifer trees and occasional visible wolf prints. There are abundant caribou, occasional moose, and even sometimes brown bears. And this area receives several inches of snowfall each year. We are not in a desert climate, but rather a cold climate north of the Arctic Circle. This region is the infamous Kobuk Sand Dunes, which are located in west-central Alaska. With the Great Kobuk Sand Dunes covering an area of 25 square miles, this feature is even visible from satellite. Yet, these sand dunes are not an isolated geologic oddity, as Alaska has 3 other medium to large sand dune complexes. So, how did a desert-like landmass of numerous sand dunes grow in such a cold climate? The answer is not an ancient warm spell, but rather relates to the abundant glaciers which once covered much of the state at the peak of the last ice age 22,000 years ago. At the time, ice sheets covered nearly 300,000 square miles of the state, consisting of 3 different massive blocks of material. One of these ice sheets covered the massive Brooks Range in the northern part of the state with several thousand and occasionally several miles thick of ice. As this large glacial mass advanced across the landscape, it ground the rock beneath it, pulverizing much of it into a fine sand after an extensive period of time. Thus, when the ice sheets began to retreat, the sand particles within the glacier flowed into streams, eventually being deposited into an area with no major outlet, as it was surrounded on all sides by high terrain. In this case, the site of the eventual Great and Little Kobuk Sand Dunes. Additional material was blown in by wind, as the adjacent mountain ranges on 3 sides provided a natural trap where much of this material would fall. This process occurred over thousands of years until a more than 100-foot thick layer of pulverized rock, largely from the Brooks Range glaciers, covered an area of 313 square miles. As for the sand which was deposited, I want to remind my audience that sand describes an abundance of a rock grain size generally accepted to be between 1/16 of a millimeter and 2 millimeters in diameter. Any smaller would be silt and any larger would be considered a granule. In the more than 10,000 years since, vegetation has repopulated much of the original larger dune field and topsoil formed, causing the dunes to shrink to less than 10% of their original size. Thus, what was once a vast single giant sand dune is now the Great Kobuk and Little Kobuk Sand Dunes, in addition to a series of numerous but far smaller sand dunes to the south of the Little Kobuk Sand Dunes. Today, much of these dunes are protected as part of the massive Kobuk Valley National Park, which covers an area which is vast, being slightly larger than the entire state of Delaware. Less than 12,000 people visited this national park in 2021, but there is a possibility that you might be outnumbered by another animal there, caribou. Twice a year, during the fall and spring, as many as 300,000 of these creatures pass through the area of the national park during their yearly migration to and from 2 different points. Thanks for watching. If you would like to request a specific topic, please leave a comment below. Additionally, I would like to thank this channel's patrons on Patreon and channel members on YouTube.